Welcome, everyone. I just want to welcome you to the Cosmic Conversations on the Conscious Awakening Network. I'm your host, Glenda Dawson, bringing you Cosmic Conversations every Tuesday night. And I am so thrilled to have you with us for tonight's episode. We have a great guest who I have been honored to speak to her before this. And she is just wonderful. She is very talented. She has great gifts. Her name is Dr. Yafi Yair, and she's a clinical psychologist, multidimensional channel, and author who bridges science and the unseen realms. With, get this, over 2 decades of experience, she channels Hathor, earth spirits, fairies, and extra-dimensional beings, delivering profound guidance on consciousness, on healing, and humanity's evolution. She's an author. She's just incredible. Let's just introduce her and let her come on. Look, yes, yes, show those, show those, show those, show those. Come on, there you go. Look at that. And she is wonderful. Just a lot of healing, a lot of remembrance when she speaks or she channels. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenda. Thank you so
You're
much
welcome.
for having me. Hi, everyone.
Welcome. You're welcome, and thank you for being here. Really.
It's my
So,
pleasure. It's my pleasure.
so, so how's everything with you? Tell us about you.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'll start at the beginning. I was born and raised in Israel, so that's where the strange name Yafi is from. And my last name, Yair. And after high school, I moved myself to New York and I started studying psychology. I froze and decided to move myself to a warmer state, which is how I ended up in Florida, where I did my master's and doctorate in psychology, in clinical psychology. However, during my last year, when I did my doctorate, I had my most recent spiritual awakening. And it really started, it was actually before 2 years, about 2 years before graduation. I had my latest spiritual awakening, where I started becoming super interested in anything spiritual and paranormal. And a few months into that new spark of interest, my mom that was diagnosed with cancer and very quickly transitioned. And that made my journey very, very personal and very urgent. It wasn't anymore this theoretical, hypothetical interest. It was me, it was my life. My mom was my best friend. I really wanted to connect to her. I wanted to believe. I wanted more than believing. I wanted to be convinced that there is more to us beyond the physical, and I wanted to be able to connect to her. So that made my journey even that more pertinent and again, very personal. So indeed, I started meditating every day. Even actually a few months before that, I started meditating every day and I really got into it, connecting to my intuition. And when my mom transitioned, I could really, really feel her energy. I could feel her absence of her living energy. And then I could feel her spiritual energy. And at first, through lucid dreaming, I was able to connect with her and communicate with her and have those meetings with her where we actually were able to spend time together. And I also began receiving messages from my guides. I didn't receive it as a distinct, like some people describe hearing voices or stuff like that. It wasn't like that for me. It was really about developing my subtle senses, about learning to become a better listener to those subtle senses so I can at first have visual abilities and see visions and awaken my mind's eye. And pretty quickly into my spiritual journey, it became more about being heart-centered and feeling things through my heart. So about a couple of years into that journey of having all these visionary experiences, my guides actually kind of, or my higher self, kind of blocked off my vision for a while. So I can start learning how to feel things and tune into things and develop more that knowing and that inner trust. So it doesn't have to be as obvious as getting an image. So it's about, again, really feeling and tuning inward to get guidance. And I also discovered professionally, I discovered hypnosis, which totally blew up open any resistance of combining spiritual and clinical or spiritual and therapeutic. Hypnosis took any doubt away, and it really became my gateway into a spiritual practice, not only in my life, but in my work. So I was able to take all my friends and my clients on my journey with me, in this journey of discovering, this journey of going deeper and deeper into the heart, and also opening the mind and the heart. The more I was able to open my mind and develop a deeper sense of trust, the more my journey unfolded. And the more I was able to trust and take that leap of faith, the more I got to experience how magical the world is, how immediate and direct the interaction is between our inner world and our outer world, and that where synchronicities come into play. Then more recently, I would say in the last 6 years, 6 or 5 years, I went back to contact in terms of like ET contact. And it's not only ET. I think like extraterrestrial contact is the gateway into contact because it's so interesting and fascinating. And who is not interested in aliens? And then you realize contact is so much more. It has so many layers and it means so many things and it shows up in so many ways. But again, it's very interesting and it's very fascinating. And I think that's okay. A part of our journey is to follow our passion. And when things really spark our interests, it's an opportunity to go even more deeply into them. So contact became very, very interesting. And through channeling Hathor, which we haven't even gotten to speak about, channeling in general, and then channeling Hathor, that made contact even more, again, personal. It wasn't just me as a person waiting for ETs to visit the planet. It was what contact means to me, both in my consciousness and then as we're approaching physical contact, what that means for me and yes, the whole of humanity.
Your experiences are so wonderful. And I love, like I've told you before, I love how you're able to put the psychology and the spiritual, combine it and make it work so flawlessly. Like it just flows automatically. There's no real battle there. Um,
Absolutely. Spirituality should be all about wellness. So if
exactly.
you're looking at it that way, really they should be best friends.
Right.
It's just that
Exactly.
our mainstream scientists are taking a little longer than the populace, which is also now only awakening really
Right.
and accepting this into the mainstream, accepting
Mhm.
spirituality. I think channeling is still a niche, it's still kind
Mhm.
of too big for most people, even on their spiritual journey. But
Yes.
we're slowly becoming more and more accepting as a society. And then eventually science will follow. So usually it's the people's first, and then authority figures at some point come later.
Yes, yes. So, you were telling us about Hawthorne. Tell us all about that.
Yes, so I did not know who or what Hathor was when she or them, you can speak about it in plural or singular. If it's singular, usually she is more appropriate,
Mhm.
even though it's not a woman in the way we're used to thinking about it. It is a feminine essence by its nature. So she or them go work very well. So the first time she came to me, I got her name from a card. I didn't know what the card meant. I didn't know what Hathor meant. I expected some masculine warrior, if anything, because the name Hathor sounded to me very ready to fight. And then but luckily for me, the people I was with, I was channeling for, they knew who Hathor was. So their questions were more appropriate than I would be, because I would be like, what is Hathor? So I channeled Hathor. I call in the essence. I have my invocation. I was a beginner channeler. So I connect with my invocation, I open and I invite Hathor, and all of a sudden I feel this nurturing, loving, what felt to me as very soft at first. Later, I felt it as also very stern and broad and grounded, but at first it just felt soft and nurturing. And it felt so good to be a part of that energy and to channel it that I immediately fell in love with that essence, even though the first couple of times, even more than that, I had no idea it was going to become a long-term relationship. Thought we were casually seeing each other. So yes, I channeled Hathor, and the energy was beautiful. And the first message was about the energy of gold. One of the first messages, it was in the first session, which I didn't really even relate to because I didn't like gold, not the color, not wearing it. So everything about it was new to me. It was the name Hathor is known from ancient Egypt as an Egyptian goddess. I was not into mythology. I would probably be completely objecting to the word goddess if that was presented. So fortunately, it was not. They knew exactly what to do to kind of ease into my mind, into my paradigm, and slowly expanding it in a way that I could accept. And so my group and I, it's really my group. I could discuss things before and after, but while I'm channeling, I close my eyes, I go inward. So my group is really the one asking questions. So we started asking more and more questions about Hathor. Who is Hathor? Is that really an Egyptian goddess? Are they in the physical or in energy? Is it one beings or many beings? And we got more and more information about how complex, even something as simple as what is Hathor, who is Hathor, how complex and layered everything is. So Hathor, yes, we know the name from ancient Egypt. And they did confirm that during the ancient Egyptian time, they really did walk the earth in the physical. So they were really physical beings. This is not just stories and mythology. However, their essence is much more broad than one or even several physical beings. And generally, they present as the divine feminine because that is the essence, that is the personality, the nature that's interacting with humanity, both historically and now as the divine feminine is rising within humanity after very, very long time of the masculine taking over and losing its balance. So it's time to rebalance, reharmonize humanity. Now, another layer of their identity, which is really interesting, is they're also a collective from the Sirius star system. So there's also a galactic or extraterrestrial element here, although they don't really take on the term extraterrestrial. From as far as they're concerned, they have been of the earth, they have been terrestrial before even humanity existed. So it's not like we're here humans and all of a sudden these ETs are coming out of nowhere and visiting us. It's really, as I mentioned, kind of a long form, long standing relationship. And what's changing more and more, especially at this time, in this day and age, is our awareness of them and many others, guides and teachers and different energies that were not fully physical, that are now getting closer. We are getting closer to them in their vibration, and they're able to slow down to get closer to our vibration and slowly to our eyes as linear humans. But at this point, pretty quickly, we're approaching each other and moving towards physical contact. And that is a part of why they have been in contact, consciousness-wise, with humanity. But also, very interestingly, now that we are in these pivotal times, now that we are approaching physical contact, they are actually in the physical, on the planet, once again preparing for this big reunion, I guess you could say, which is very exciting, very, very exciting.
Yes.
Now, another important thing to mention about their identity and who and what they are. So we asked about the name Hathor, of, oh, so this is the name that's most appropriate to call you if we want to connect with you. And they said the names is really just a name, and it's more for the humans than for the other side. And they said different cultures, different eras gave us different names. So even when we talk about the beings Aphrodite and Venus, right, the goddess of love, and I don't know what else, again, I was never too much into mythology. But they said this is the same essence, and those cultures chose those names for those beings. So there are many, and they also mentioned Kuan Yin, which is from the other side of the world. But the idea is that again and again and again, that essence of the divine feminine, the essence of loving creation, which is fundamental, and our connection to nature. It's not a coincidence. We call the planet Mother Earth. And we also give her all these feminine names, Terra, Gaia. Again, it's not a coincidence. It's all connected in the thread of the divine feminine and all directly related to our awakening as people, as individuals, and as people.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, different societies, different times, they call that essence differently. Because, to me, you could channel and they could give themselves that name, Hawthorne, and then somebody else could be channeling the same essence. And for them, it's easier to have a different name because that's how they can deal with the name easier.
Absolutely. And I said that the deck, I was picking cards from a deck of a bunch of essences and energies that were ready to come through and work in the channeled state. And that deck did have Venus and Aphrodite and Kuan Yin, but those names, which by the way I was familiar with, and maybe that's one reason they didn't come through, those names didn't come through. Another idea, that this is my speculation, why they came through with the name Hathor, because not only it's known as an Egyptian goddess, there's also this almost separate but parallel, really, idea of the archetypal mother. The Hathor was not only a goddess in the mythology, she was associated with the cow because she nursed all the other gods. So even to the other gods, she was the mother of all. So you have, again, that callback to the divine feminine, to the initial creation. So it's not just one singular goddess, which I don't think is a concept that exists with Venus and Aphrodite. They're just known as a goddess. They're not really associated directly with an archetype. So that's why I think it came through with that name. But again, it could be very personal. It can be just because I did not have any preconceived notions for the name. So I wasn't front loaded when I first, second, third, the first 2 years that I connected, I had no other information than what came through. And about 2 years into it, I went to Egypt. And that's when I learned several things that really validated my inner experience and made me feel so good that it's not, any validation, any confirmation is so important to the human mind because we're so out there, and this validation keep us anchored into our physical density and reality.
Very true, very true. And and I believe it probably was because you would have a pre-knowledge of him, and then you would say, oh, this is the way it is. And this way you were so blinded.
Yes.
Right. And you were more open to it, to different
I think so.
things. So do you, now you said just your group, do you channel on a group in a regular basis or?
Yeah, so it's been about 5 years and I never stopped. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of material out there. And I channel every week. I still do every Sunday on Zoom for my little group. And intentionally, I keep it very, very, very affordable so people can join in and experience that energy and experience the transmissions. And some of my group, we've been the same people for 5 to 4 years. So it's a really nice of building up energy. And when you get the same group of people, you know, at first it's questions like, who is Hathor? Who are they? What's their reality like? Why are they communicating with us now? Then there are a lot of personal questions. Oh, I feel a blockage in my heart chakra. What do I do with that? Oh, how can I connect to your energy? Or I have a difficulty with my child. What do I do about that? And then that phase of personal questions mostly fades away. And then we start tackling really deep topics. Right. And then there are different people that come and go. So the energy keeps on flowing and modifying. But we build on the same energy and we go really deeply into sound and frequency and different dimensions and sacred geometry and all kind of topics that I actually know very little about. And in some ways, it's really good. So I need to have some knowledge base because they do use my knowledge base and my vocabulary to communicate. On the other hand, when I'm at least semi-ignorant about a topic, it also gives them more flexibility to bypass any preconceived notions that I have. So I'm constantly learning more and more and more about different concepts, and some things I don't really understand, and that's okay too, because at first I don't think I was very comfortable talking about things that I have no idea, because I would describe things and I don't even know what I'm describing. It just feels very strange. And at some point, I accepted that that is literally how I am growing. This is how I am expanding. And just like them, or I am asking people to be okay, become more comfortable with uncertainty, become more comfortable with disorganization and chaos and flow, because that leads to deeper and higher organization. That is how I'm experiencing it internally when I'm channeling. So that is a part of why it is such a growing process for me, whether it's learning deeper trust, or again, learning to be in discomfort, in uncertainty, or just expanding my mind with all these different concepts and expanding my energy as I continue to merge with this essence and connect. Because what I'm doing when I'm channeling, and you don't have to be a channeler to do that, but what I'm doing when I'm channeling, it's not me being taken over by them or by any other essence that I channel. It's me willingly merging, opening myself so I can merge with their consciousness. So it's really like a merging. So not all of them is in me and not all of me is them, but there's this overlap, and this overlap is what gets to be shared with you and with people, with the people around. And like I said, you don't have to be channeling. So you can connect to them in meditation. You can connect with them anytime you're in nature. You can invite that essence. And yes, you can call Hathor, you can call the divine feminine, or you can literally just connect to essence of nature around you, birds and water and the sunlight and the trees. And this is all bringing in essences or elements of the divine feminine.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, the books, what led you to write them?
Yeah, so I really felt that the material should be shared on a larger scale. Me and my group are having a blast, and there all this information comes through, and the books are really all channeled materials. So the first one, Conversations with the Earth, I published, I think, late 2023. So it's been out for about a year, a little more than a year. And that was really documenting that as a new channeler, I invited many, many, many different essences. And me and my group were very, very curious. So, okay, what does the moon have to say to humanity? What does Andromeda consciousness have to say to humanity? How about the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, the Zeta Reticuli? How about the hybrid children? Are we going to meet them? So any essence that you could imagine or think about, any essence that we could imagine and think about, whether it came through the cards that I mentioned before, or we were just curious about, I would first make a very clear intention to only operate within loving realms of light, or only very high frequency. And then I would do just kind of an open, who from the Zeta Reticuli can talk to us now that we're tuned to these high vibrations. And so the book, Conversations with the Earth, documents this wild journey of communicating to different elements, to different stars, to different consciousnesses, different beings. And that's all in that book. And then over time, I realized that one of the sources that really, really stuck with me was Hathor. Other essences came and gone, even essences that I work with more closely, like Viola the fairy. I have an aspect that's a fairy that I've channeled. And the Peas, which is a collective of Pleiadians. None of them come close to the number of times I've channeled Hathor. She has become, or they have become, really my main source and the main thing I connect to. And even when other energies are present, I feel Hathors are like the conductors, which allowing different pathways to make the connection. So that's when earlier this year, so it's brand new, I came up with Conversations with Hathor, channeling the divine feminine. And that really focuses just on the messages from Hathor. There's a little bit of Isis in there. And everything about the divine feminine, again, about their own nature, about their interactions with humanities in the past and today, about different messages that they have about how to connect to their essence. What does it mean to connect to their essence? How us as humanity is learning to live from the heart, and many other questions that came up and were answered over time. We're talking over several years of my group, including what I mentioned, and that really closes this book, that they are here again in the physical on Earth. And the next book, which will include channeling that is happening right now, will really document the steps of contact as things are happening and unfolding. And about 2.5 months ago, I had a physical visitation. And now let me preface that either in December or January, so either late last year or the beginning of this year, we asked about physical contact, my group, and they said that Yafi in June is going to have a physical contact event, and it may not be exactly what I'm thinking. And I was wondering, what does that mean? Is it not exactly what I'm thinking? What am I going to see? What is it going to be like? And of course, instead of an alien or some kind of a being in that way, I had a sighting or interaction with a fairy, but a physical. I saw it in the physical, and I had other people around me. So I wasn't the only one seeing the fairy, which is also usually when I see things, it's kind of the corner of the eyes or orbs in the sky. And sometimes people see it, sometimes people don't see it. But this was very direct. The fairy flew. I was talking to another woman. So we were sitting in front of each other, and the fairy flew right between our faces. And we both saw it as quite physical. And later, that same fairy visited that other woman in her bedroom at night and flew around her room, really kind of proving that it's real. Because the other woman could really not come to grasp with what she saw. And even overnight, when the fairy visited her, at first she said, "Oh, it's a lightning bug." And then she's like, "Yeah, lightning bug don't really get this big." And then she saw it flying around the room and eventually taking off and disappearing. And I think a lot of contact is really for us to come to realization of how real it is. And so again, a lot of validation. And also preparation for more and more contact, more closeness, as both energetically, physically, but also with our mind. We're really preparing for the new reality that we are stepping into. And we are there now. It's no longer in the future. For years, it was about prediction, about what's coming. And this is no longer the conversation. We are here now, we are experiencing it, and that is a part of why everything seems so chaotic and crazy and intense, because
Mhm.
we are at the apex of all the changes that are happening as we are again stepping into our new reality.
Yes, preparing, all those years have been just to prepare humanity for what the obvious is.
Exactly.
So, now when you channel, usually it's Hawthorne, but what other, and the fairy, what other beings have you been able to, or have contacted you to channel? I know
Yes,
you said
so
about the moon. I'm interested now to see what the moon said, if you could remember.
let's see. So I've channeled the moon more than once. The first time was really for the book. I mean, it wasn't for the book yet, but in conversations
Right.
with the earth. And we just asked about humanity and what's their relationship with the moon and what's the moon's main effect on us. And but since then, we also bring up the moon whenever there are major eclipses. We usually call galactic sources to get more information about the specific events. Now, the moon, I remember some things the moon said. So the moon acknowledged that their main or its main interaction with us is through water, the fluids in our body, and through crystals.
Mhm.
And as you know, we are mainly water. That's the biggest part, percentage of our
Mhm.
body. And that has a lot to do with the moon and how the moon interacts with us. And the moon also said that during a full moon, there really is an extra exposure to the moon. It's not just visual, but it's also visual. And that was very surprising to me. The moon, I remember that because I didn't expect that. The moon said that, I think she said she, I don't remember if it was a she or it or them, but she really loved showing more of herself to humans. And there was this awareness that this is a way to connect with our awareness even more by showing her beauty to us. So, and I
Mhm.
never thought about things like that. Again, I was never much into mythology, even into symbolism. I think I was way too left brain and analytical for stuff like that. So that really caught me by surprise. And I thought it's so poetic and beautiful that even something as simple as seeing the full moon is a form of connection and communication with our consciousness, because we see her more, we appreciate her more, we feel her presence more. And again, there are more subtle interactions and physiological interaction with the body, with the water in our bodies, and through different crystals, both crystalline structures in the human body, but also external water and crystals that we can work with and connect to the moon's energy and work with the moon's energy in that way.
Mhm. I sleep like a baby when the full moon is out there. Have trouble sleeping the rest of the month, but I have no problem sleeping, which is a great thing, because I love the full moon. I love to go out there and take a peek when it's clear. Pennsylvania, there aren't that many clear days, clear nights, but when it is clear, to go out there and just connect. Um, Now, would you be willing to do a channeling session?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So we didn't really discuss light language or field tuning at
Yes.
all.
Well,
So
okay.
let me just
Yeah.
ask if that's something that you're interested in. Would you
I
like?
hear I hear the shaking of heads. So go ahead.
Yeah, so field tuning
Mhm.
is different tones and sounds that they make. And just like it sounds, field tuning is a term that they gave. They call it field tuning because it works with our energy field and it tunes us. It brings us into coherence, first internally and then with each other. And that also mixed in with light language. They didn't bring up the term light language, but they use it because we do. And from the way I feel it, Isis is involved a lot with the language, and Hathor is involved a lot with the tones and the sounds. So that being said, I'm going to go into channeled mode. They're going to offer some kind of a light language and or field tuning. And then they'll speak to you in language. And you're invited, of course, both Glenda and everybody else is invited to ask questions. And the answers, you can ask questions that the answer requires words, or if you would like to ask questions that the answer is in light language or in sounds, that can be done as well.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
I'm going to go in and I'll see you on the other side.
Okay.
Tentirayenna haranyakaharoma heinarom. Torianikarianohoma heranyakatarayena kikrayana homarastianatarohoma neakiranya. Uromayena Homaharayana Homaharayana Harieta Homai Tineria Homa ho 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 ho. Urianeye heratiena, Orohoyena ruhumanerayana, Herieno hoyeranie, Umahiena, Greetings and blessings to you. Energy is still moving, so feel free if you need to keep your eyes closed and feel and allow the flow to go through you. Feel free to do so. But we can start talking. It is us, Hathor, here, happy to be in this tender, open space and share it with you. Anyone that is here and hearing the messages is meant to be here and meant to experience it in this way. You are more than welcome to share with us what you may have felt during the field tuning. We'll offer you this explanation that a lot of the focus in the first half was what you would call in your head, in your mind. We were working with the pineal gland, and you may say vibrating it in a specific frequency that allows further openness. And once there was sufficient coherence and openness, we moved on to the heart space, which was more focused during the second part of the field tuning. And once again, we focus on an openness and resonance. So you could allow more flow to go through you, and perhaps even for you to perceive energies a little more easily and readily. With that being said, we will open the space for any questions you may have.
Well, I'll start the questions.
Please do.
When you were field tuning, not just my heart felt it, but my hands also felt it, palm of my hands.
Yes.
And yes, I am a energy healing. I hate, I don't like to say healer, but
Practitioner.
practitioner, yes. And what is the meaning of it coming to the palm of my hands?
Yes. So the most sensitive areas to sensations of energy in the human system, and yes, it is different from a person to person, but there are generalities. And in general, it's the hands and the feet. And those activate in different times, they have different functions. So, what you were feeling is your energy body as it was activating and as energy started flowing through you. As an energy practitioner, you are accustomed to feeling the energy in your palms, in your hands. As when you practice energy work, you often feel the centers in your hands opening and activating for an interactive practice of the energy. As you send the energy, you feel it in your hands. Even though it is not, we would say, only your hands sending energy, but that is the centers where you feel it. With the feet, it's slightly different. You may feel it when you are releasing energy, it may go through the feet. And also, when working more with the lower chakras, as you begin noticing movement of energy, it may most easily be sent through the feet. But the hands are very common with people that are more used to working with energy and feeling energy, as these are the centers you are used to feeling awakening. So whenever there is a flow, a sufficient flow of energy going in and out and interacting with your consciousness in that way, you feel it in your hands.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, any questions from our audience? Okay, there are comments all over this. Susie, go ahead.
Yeah, um, this is so much. I was, um, I was Sheila, who usually did this show. I played music for her for 5 years. My fiance committed suicide a year ago in 8 days. But she did a channeling for me with Hathor and Mary of Magdala, Mary the mother of Yeshua, uh, and she said I was the lineage of Sophia and all this stuff. But I didn't know how to find Hathor. I mean, I looked on YouTube, there was some stuff, but what could you offer to show me how because I feel the sacred feminine. I know I'm responsible for a lot of that on the planet. My whole being has been focused on that. And guess what? The initiation for this club of women, the Mary of Magdala, it was all it was all a pierced heart. So I don't know how Hathor had a pierced heart, but all the rest of the beings in this group, and they lived in me with my hut for a couple of months while I'm grieving and healing and stuff. But yeah, tell me more about Hathor, how I can find out more. And I know you're channeling, so tell me about you.
Yes, we are working very closely with many, many individuals on your planet today. So it is not a coincidence that people have individual experiences with the divine feminine. And Mother Mary, which is different than Mary Magdalene. However, different presentations of the divine feminine and different opportunities to connect to the divine feminine in a personal way, depending on what you feel drawn to. So there are different pathways to connect to the same divine feminine essence. And their different ways are different. They're not the same, but they all lead to the same place of deep communion with your own inner balanced, harmonious femininity, divine loving creation, as you are a powerful, loving creator. You as a woman, and all of you on the planet today. So if you ask how you can hear more from us through this vehicle, you mentioned YouTube, you may go on YouTube, and there are many, many messages and videos that we have shared and continue to share with people like yourselves. However, it is not the only way to connect to our essence. Every time you do any inner work that evokes your divine feminine, that calls that essence into fruition and into balance, you are working with that essence. Every time you connect to music and dance, you are connected to that essence. It is not a coincidence that both, in terms of the name, specifically Hathor, us, were also known as the goddess of music and dance. Other goddesses, other divine feminine over the millennia were also associated with music, with the female human voice, which is essential to, we would say, connecting to the divine feminine, and also walking into the next stage for humanity, where frequency and vibration is understood as actual science and technology that can interact with your consciousness, making it an actual healing technology. So these are still things that are being discovered. Some of it have already been discovered. Others are being discovered as we speak, and yet others will be revealed over the next several years as these realities unfold more and more for humanity. Does this answer your question, or do you have any follow-ups we may be able to answer?
No, I think you did it. I do think I'll get your book though, because that's got Hathor information.
Absolutely. That is the purpose of this book, to introduce our essence into the masses. Some have already been familiar with the essence, whether from intellectual understandings or personal experience and exposure. However, this is an opportunity for people to go even more deeply in the experiential way of actually feeling the essence and connecting to it, and not just reading and learning about it. Because reading and learning is wonderful, but it is just one aspect of real learning, real
Yeah,
exposure, real beingness. You are not here to just be a good student. You are here to walk as a teacher and walk as a beacon of light, connecting to other lights around, and together walking this beautiful journey.
that's gorgeous. Thank you so much. So gorgeous.
You are most welcome.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much.
So I have one more question. Now, some people said that they felt it on the right side, top of the left, and the right side versus, say, their third eye, and their pineal gland. Is there a reason why some people feel it differently?
Yes, that is an excellent question. So different people will generally feel based on what their energy needs to do to come into coherence. So we'll give first a general example, and then we'll speak specifically about the right and the left. So we mentioned that we're working with the pineal gland, and then we're working with the heart center. Somebody, just like you felt it in your hands, somebody else may say, no, but I felt vibration in my lower abdomen. Does that mean that I was imagining things or that I was feeling things wrong? And the answer is no. If something in your lower abdomen required some energetic tweaking in order for your whole system to come into greater coherence. That is what would move, that is what would vibrate in order to align with greater coherence. Now, specifically about the right and the left. Generally speaking, when you are integrating, balancing your feminine, both lineage and in your current life, so anything that has to do with higher trust and going with the flow and integrating that feminine side, bringing it into balance and harmony, you would tend to feel it on the left side. When you are integrating and balancing the masculine, bringing either, again, ancestors of masculine lineage, or maybe even doing healing for your own father, or integrating masculinity within yourself, calling in that divine masculine, balancing the masculine, you would tend to feel it on the right side. So now we can make it more specific. We were working with the pineal gland to generally allow psychic connection and flow. We will stick with these two, connection and flow. And we were working on the pineal gland. If somebody here has brain patterns that are masculine in nature, and this masculine side needs to come into harmony, not by bringing in just the feminine, but the actual inner work within the masculine, you may feel it in your in your right mind, in your right head, or other parts of the body. Neck and back are also very common, since often that's where you hold control, that's where you hold tension, and also the spinal cord is a real actual conduit for energy, for electricity. So you may have different sensation all the way throughout the spine and around the spine.
Thank you. Thank you. Now you said we're getting prepared for contact, physical contact. I've heard a lot that there might be contact this year. Is that the plan, hopefully? Or is that something to look forward to if society and humans are prepared properly?
So if you're talking about major full-on open contact, the answer is not yet.
Right.
Humanity is not ready quite yet, and as a result, it's not going to happen because this is something that's not going to be forced on the people or imposed. It is meant to be done as gradually as possible to reduce the level of shock. There will still be shock, but to reduce the level of shock. Now, we will say that in your timeline, in 3 to 4 months, there is going to be a contact event. It is not open contact worldwide, but it is going to be significant enough to further move forward the concept of open contact and the preparation for the future steps that will build on it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Now, we have about 5 minutes, so if maybe you could do a healing in general, and then bring Dr. Yafi back.
Yes, we will check what the group situation is like and help move some more energy. And then we will bring you Yafi back. Runa yakatira stiana nanariana hayena homa. Puromania kita rianita ariana turustayama. Urania katariasti ania katurustunaya. Repairing the right shoulder for an individual. Tikraniata rastiana turu ania katira an ayana katira. Uro homa neakat ar. Iana turustiana kat ira ham ayani kat ar. Moving into the hips, as several people have some hips difficulties. Rita niakat arianu turusta ham an aik. Krianitara am ai.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And I could tell that someone's heart got fixed also.
Yeah,
There
and
was a lot of pain there.
I can mention that they went into the hips
Mhm.
and specifically and what came through, they did very little with the hips. I was surprised internally how short it was because they said they were going to go in the hips and it was several people. And then they did a little bit and stopped. And internally I asked, why? Why did it stop so quickly? And they said that, which is interesting, that there's specifically a lot of contract specifically now of people clearing all kind of hip issues, and it's karmically for them and for many, many other realities. So you can think of it as past lives, you can see it as ancestral work, but the idea is it's this life and also other existences, other life, but specifically with the hips. So I've never heard that before. And I wonder if there is some way to measure it medically, if there are more hip issues than ever before. I don't know how we would find that out. But they said that
definitely a good question, right?
they said that right now there are a lot of people that are experiencing hip issues that are karmically related. I found that very interesting. I've never heard that before.
Oh, you need to do the research because you could get in there. And then bring that, so, that back. Now there is one question. Any comment about spirit and science?
Yes, spirit and science are slowly, as we mentioned, becoming better and better friends. One of the problems in that friendship, at least in the past, in the old paradigm, that scientists thought that all science is objective and that personal experience cannot be a part of science. Science is an outside observation. And again, the aim was to be objective to reduce any interference with the science. And spirituality, on the other hand, comes from the basic understanding that the experience is what matters. So spirituality is about your experience. You can read spiritual books, but that's not really you being on a spiritual journey until you experience things yourself and walk the walk, talk the talk, walk the walk, experience all the experiences. And there's more and more acceptance in science. Scientists are resisting, but there's only so much they can resist. Already in the 70s with quantum physics, we had the experiment that proved that our mere observation is impacting the result of the study. So a light can be a particle or a wave, depending whether we're going to observe it. Even if it's done in the future, the particle knows whether to be a particle or a wave. So, and that was 50 years ago, and we're still very, very slowly accepting how much everything is personal interaction and experience. That's what consciousness is. So the more science becomes open to that concept, the more science and spirituality can merge and support each other and promote each other. And that is where we are now.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you. So if you could just say your website so people can find you. It will be in the description, but for those here.
Yes, please come find me at yafichanneling.com, YAFI channeling.com. Also on YouTube, I'm either Yafi Yair, that's my last name, or Yafi Channeling. So even if you Google Yafi Channeling, I'm on Spotify, which is a great way to listen to the light language and different chants and music, on YouTube and on my website. These are the best way to get in touch. I do travel groups. I channel every Sunday. We do a lot of different fun things together.
I am so honored that you accepted my invitation. Thank you.
Thank you so much
And
for having me.
I know that everybody received today, that's for sure. So I could see the energy fields lighting up all over.
Yes,
So
we're sparking up the world.
there you go. Well, thank you very much. And to our audiences, whether you see this now or later, if you haven't, please be sure to join the Conscious Awakening Network so you can stay up on all the updated amazing guests and events and everything that's coming up. Please, it's consciousawakeningnetwork.org. And as always, don't forget, I love you.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.
Big hug.
Big hug.
Big hug.